At the weekend, Sherman was in the Solomon Islands for the 80th anniversary of Guadalcanal, one of the pivotal battles of the war in the Pacific, where her own father fought and was wounded. She's on a mission to restore US diplomacy in the face of China's expanding influence. Wendy Sherman, welcome to the programme.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
You've come from the anniversary of the World War II battle at Guadalcanal in the Solomons. Was the lesson that the US took from that war that you cannot afford to let another aggressive power gain military dominance in the Pacific?
No, it was an incredibly moving set of events on Solomon Islands, remembering that we all fought together, including with Solomon Islanders, to push back the Imperial Japanese Army at the time, to really ensure a free Solomon Islands, a democracy, an independent country, and that this was very critical. We also took from it that people who may at one time be adversaries can become enormous allies, as of course we have become with Japan. I think what was so moving about it for people of my generation, my father fought at Guadalcanal. I was there with Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, who's now the ambassador to Australia. Her father fought there, of course, in the famous PT-109 story. And it was allies and partners working together, Solomon Islanders, who were the coast watchers, who saved John F. Kennedy to eventually become the president of the United States, and also helped us win. I think further, Sarah, what's critical is out of that war, we built a rules-based international order that allowed all countries to play by the same set of rules, a UN charter that everyone signed up to, a universal declaration of human rights that everybody signed up to. And that has served the world well. We should not leave it behind. We need to plan for the future based on those fundamental values.
Right now, though, what we're looking at is a situation where China's extraordinarily rapid military expansion continues apace right in front of us all. Is it too late to stop China from becoming the dominant power in the region?
You know, I think what is important is that we all work to make sure that everybody is playing by the same rules. We are seeing China obviously escalate very quickly. We're seeing them escalate in the situation with Taiwan in just extraordinary ways. They announced new exercises today, a completely disproportionate response to a member of the U.S. Congress visiting. Our Congress is a co-equal branch of government. It's not a parliamentary system. So the president doesn't get to tell members of Congress where they can travel, and many have traveled to Taiwan. So this is a very disproportionate response. If rockets were flying around any country, they would be very, very concerned. The Japanese told Foreign Minister Wang and Secretary Blinken in the trilateral meeting they had over the weekend that some of those rockets fell in the EEZ of Japan. So this is a very concerning situation. I think the entire world is concerned, and the United States, Australia, Japan, like-minded countries around the world are urging China to de-escalate. Nobody else is escalating. The Taiwanese are not escalating. The United States is not escalating. Australia is not. Japan is not. The only country that's escalating this situation is China.
One of the things that became evident from those exercises was that short of an invasion of Taiwan, it is possible that China is demonstrating how it could carry out a blockade of Taiwan. Is that now the US's most immediate fear, that they could try to do that to cut Taiwan off from the rest of the world?
I think there's no doubt that Xi Jinping means to, by whatever means, take Taiwan. He has said as much because he says Taiwan is part of China. And of course, the United States stands by our one China policy. We do not support Taiwan independence. But we do believe that neither side should take unilateral steps to change the status quo in the Taiwan Straits. And that's exactly what the PRC is doing. And we think that the stability that we've had for so many decades now is worth preserving.
But at the same time,
it benefits all.
Forgive me for interrupting, but at the same time, President Biden's commitment militarily to defend Taiwan, coupled with Nancy Pelosi's statements about her support for democratic Taiwan, do those two statements seen together put an end to that long notion of ambiguity when it comes to US policy?
No, I think the president has said that we stand by our one China policy. We do not support Taiwan independence. There is no change in a policy we have had on a bipartisan basis for years.
And yet the president himself did speak those words. When asked whether the US would come to the aid of Taiwan militarily, he said yes, he is the commander-in-chief.
Then he said in further comments that he stands by our obligations on under the Taiwan Relations Act, but that our one China policy does not support the independence of Taiwan, and reinstated, actually never left the strategic ambiguity that has been there for so long in terms of what we are required to do. We certainly want to help Taiwan to defend itself.
Let's just talk about Australia. How critical is Australia going to be in the next decade, both as a base for operations and as a military partner for the US?
The US-Australia partnership is just extraordinarily important. We work together on so many things. I've just come from Samoa, Tonga, and Solomon Islands, getting information, getting understanding, working together with Australia on the Pacific Islands and supporting them to maintain their independence, their sovereignty, their territorial integrity, their right to choose their own future is something that we in Australia are working on together. Writ large in the Indo-Pacific, then of course, Australia and the U.S. are like-minded when it comes to Ukraine. Prime Minister Albanese just visited Ukraine, and Australia has been in lockstep on sanctions, on accountability, on providing the weapons that Ukraine needs to defend itself. And of course, we have a major project under AUKUS with the United Kingdom as well, to build a fleet of nuclear submarines and then to look at other advances in technology that will need to respond to the age of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. So this is a really extraordinary alliance between our two countries.
Just briefly on the AUKUS submarines, there is some discussion here. You know that there's a concern about a capability gap. Would the US government be prepared to lease or sell a nuclear submarine to Australia in the short term?
Well, I don't want to rush to any decisions. We have all kinds of processes that we need to go through and all kinds of export control regulations in our country, how we move forward on things. I think that the AUKUS team is just extraordinary. I think they are just working in lockstep, solving problems along the way. And I think the vision that was outlined originally is going to be realized. Just
to go back to your meeting in the Solomons, how worrying was it for you that Prime Minister Sogavare did not attend that Guadalcanal ceremony?
You know, I said to the Prime Minister directly that I was so sorry that obviously his schedule did not allow him to come because he missed an important opportunity. This was a place where international leaders gathered to say that the work with Solomon Islanders at the time of World War II was decisive in victory, in ensuring freedom and democracy. And so I really felt sorry for the Prime Minister because I think he missed an important opportunity. We raised up the importance of Solomon Islanders in what they did in World War II, and he missed that memorialization of the Solomon Islanders and all of the people, civilians included, who gave their lives for freedom.
So when you spoke to him after the ceremony, and as you just pointed out, it was a significant omission on his part, was he able to give you any assurances about China's intentions to build a military base in the Solomons?
Well, I'm not going to speak to private conversations except to say that he did, in this instance, repeat assurances that he has given to others. But this is a situation where we will all watch very carefully to see what happens here. It is quite critical. He has given assurances to other members of the Pacific Island Forum that is not the intention, because I think it is not just the U.S. and Australia or New Zealand who care. It is the Pacific Island Forum, other countries who care very much that there not be a Chinese military base, because that would create a threat potentially to all of the Pacific Islands and create security concerns for all.
Would I be right in saying then that you took his absence at the ceremony as a snub?
You know, I think I said what I said and just said to you, which is that I think he missed an important opportunity. And I think that when I spoke to the press in Solomon Islands, they saw it as an opportunity that he had missed. And so he will have to answer to his own citizens about why he made the choice that he did. The ceremony was incredibly moving, incredibly important. I think we all felt really the solidarity of our work together to ensure freedom and democracy in the Pacific. And as Admiral Halsey said, Guadalcanal was critical to the war in the Pacific and ensured victory in World War II. It was really quite extraordinary.
Deputy Secretary of State, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Sarah.